What isn't as difficult as people say it is?
Mr. Reddit.
Admitting being in the wrong.
I used to be the most stubborn, hard-headed person ever. I'd never, ever admit that I was wrong, ever. And I was an expert on everything. It turns out, saying, I'm wrong, or, I don't know enough about X, is pretty easy, and people respect it.
Welcome to self-awareness. I feel it took me much too long to get here myself, but saying I was wrong, my opinion has changed or I don't know enough to speak to that is actually a very empowering thing. It is for me, anyway. Being scared of being wrong is something I've allowed to hold me back too much in life. Or, if I went for something, it made me passionate to the point of aggression. I couldn't be wrong. It was no surprise to anyone in my family that I got a late-in-life ADHD diagnosis. I'm mid-40s and have worked very hard to be a less shitty version of myself. It's been uncomfortable, but worth all the discomfort. And not gonna lie, I need the meds to help me be the person I was always trying to be but never properly achieving. I know a lot of very intellectual people. PhDs and such, some truly intelligent, highly educated members of society. They went one of two ways: God complex where they could never admit they were wrong, or humble and self-aware enough to understand how much they have to learn. Competently stupid people are weird and fragile, man. They lack the ability to have their mind changed, because they weren't the ones who made up their minds in the first place. It was done for them by whatever idiot they idolized this week.
Being polite, my roommate has been bitching and complaining for the last 2 years about not getting promoted at our job. In the meantime, I've had several raises and promotions, as have most employees. The difference is he has been insufferably entitled and rude the entire time, expecting people to recognize his brilliance and offer him a promotion. Meanwhile, the rest of us have been pleasant to work with, just buckling down to do the work with a positive attitude. He just can't seem to get out of his own way.
This has been my experience in IT as well. I was in help desk for like 8 years as a tier 1 floating between several orgs. The org I'm at now promoted me from help desk I to sysadmin over several years for doing a few things: show up, and on time. Be approachable and helpful to the guys less skilled. Make a visible effort at learning. I may not learn fast, but I am first to own my mistakes and I only make them a couple times. I am not the best at anything, I get things wrong a lot. Several of my server migrations have resulted in downtime. I'm not the best at responding to my tickets on time. There's so many things that someone might judge me for. But I show up every day. The owner of my company and my boss always get a laugh when making small talk with me and can rely on me to take on any task they ask of me. Once I got out of my own way and just showed up, I got promotions.
Quitting smoking. I do it every 3 to 5 years.
Never smoked, but these goddamn nicotine pouches, man, I can quit cold turkey. Easy peasy. Go a month or 2 no problem. But the first fishing trip or golf round where someone offers me a nicotine pouch, I'm back hooked. I'll just swing in and buy 1 tin. Just to have. Oh. They're 3, 4, 1. Well, it would be a waste of money to only buy 1.
The easy way to stop smoking, Alan Carr, worked for me and many people. Aphotus named James, 12 hours ago. Seriously, anyone who's trying to quit smoking, get this book and read it. I'm usually pretty averse to self-help type books, but this one was different, and it really takes some of the pressure off by saying at the very beginning, paraphrased, don't try to quit smoking as you're reading this book. Read the whole book and then set a quit date. I really can't recommend this book enough. I started smoking as a teenager and smoked for 16 years. Tried to quit more times than I can count. I read this book before the last time I tried to quit and something just clicked. I've been 249 days without a cig and I truly know I won't be going back this time.
Right. It's so easy to ignore your phone while driving. If you can't stop yourself from checking notifications, then your phone should be on silent in the car. If you can't stop yourself from just idly checking your phone, then it should be out of reach or otherwise inaccessible, like in the back seat, trunk, glove box, or wherever prevents you from reaching for it. There are ways to work around your habits to help ensure the safety of yourself and others.
Being loyal to your partner.
This. Oh, you can't say you never will, people slip up. I'm pretty sure I can. It's not like I'm saying I'll never fall face first into a puddle. Cheating is not a random oopsie act. I feel like those people need therapy and to be single and or in non-monogamous relationships, depending on whether they can get their shit together and be loyal instead of cheating again like they did when they were monogamous, as in, following whatever non-monogamous relationship rules they've agreed to, breaking those rules, such as not telling their partner about people they've hooked up with.
This really is easy. I was married a day under 26 years, and the closest I ever came to cheating was an occasional thought of, well, there's a missed opportunity with no real regret. I'm not some saint. I do most of the things I'm tempted to do. Cheating on my wife is just too wrong for any potential enjoyment. There were quite a lot of those 25 years when I wasn't getting what I needed, and I really like sex. I had opportunities. I had friends who are women who would have been into it. But I just didn't do it. A few months ago, I found out my ex-wife has started telling people, particularly our grown kids, we broke up because I was having an affair. I talked to each of our kids about it. Told them it wasn't true. One laughed and said, it would have been really impressive if you managed to have an affair while all that stuff was going on. I agree. I don't know how a person with a full-time job and a family can manage to have an affair. There just aren't enough hours in a day. A one-night stand or something, sure. But an ongoing relationship? I can't really imagine the logistics involved.
Staying quiet.
It's hard for me to not be quiet.
I lived alone for a long time, so I really enjoy just not talking and sitting in silence. My wife talks so much that we can't even listen to music in the car because she is talking the entire drive.
I took a 10-hour road trip with my oldest, who was 15 at the time. I foolishly bought an audiobook we could listen to, but after hour 4, it became apparent we wouldn't be needing anything to fill the silence. Facts. It's so easy not to get sucked in. There's this lady I know that has drama everywhere she goes. I stopped calling her because it's all I hear. Every job and every person in her life has something going on.
I am guilty of airing my thoughts excessively, but I also cannot walk home wearing earbuds without a woman charging towards me and physically attacking me, or when I used to drive strange men following me and chasing me. A woman wore a camera and walked around a major city, filming the sexual harassment she received from me for a full day. The comments were incredibly divided, a lot of men defending, he just said hi, when really, it was disgusting comments about private parts, etc. Some of us are born onto this earth with shit getting flung at us non-stop for no reason, and others don't step in and help BCS they don't want to also become a target. My theory about the patriarchy is that men see women very much ready to gouge each other's eyes out and use that weakness in them to inherently rule over them. BCS to dominate a group, you just have to take over the leader, and the leader of any community of women is a woman ready to kill all other women and submit to men, like boy moms. Women will always suffer BCS of other women.
Telling the truth. I always found it hilarious how liars don't believe you can go through everyday life without lying.
I don't even know why liars lie unless they have a disorder. Like, yeah, it might make you seem more interesting, but what's the point if people aren't even liking you, just shit you made up? And what's the point of lying to avoid consequences? You're not actually in the clear, you're just digging a deeper hole and are an even worse person and would probably be fine and respected if you just told a hard truth.
I lie almost pathologically. I don't control it, I don't do it on purpose. But if the truth feels bad or makes me look bad or makes someone else look/feel bad that I don't want to do that to, then the lie is out of my mouth before I can even think about the question, and I often have to backtrack. With my wife at least, I don't want to lie to her, and luckily she knows my whole history and why I do it, and she's understanding about that I'm trying to fix it. There can definitely be legitimate reasons to lie in cases like mine, in the life I've led.
I realized a year or so ago that I would needlessly embellish things when speaking, and I honestly had no idea why I did it. It was technically lying, but about stupid shit. Random example, saying my mile time in high school was faster than it was. I'm fucking 37 years old and no one gives a shit. After I made myself aware of this, I stopped doing it, but I still have no idea why I started. What is even more weird to me is that I am a very honest person otherwise. I don't straight up lie and say I once stayed in track, but I say I ran it 10 seconds faster than I did. Again, just a random example.
Knowing you're right but not fighting about it or even pointing it out. Sometimes it just doesn't matter that much. Let that guy believe that DC is better than Marvel. Let that lady believe that her candidate is better than your candidate. Let that person that cuts you off in traffic go without chastising.
Over my lifetime, I have learned to keep it in my own head. Coming from a very correcting family, the pronunciation/usage/succinct delivery were more important than the thought the other person was expressing. To the point of quick interruption and a carry on. They handed it straight down to my brother, who can barely absorb anything of mine for all his fact-checking, listening for like a ticker tape. Yes. I recently reorganized and purged my entire house. At the beginning, it felt like such a daunting task, and it took a solid week of working at it every day all day to go through everything. But as I was doing it, it wasn't that difficult. In fact, it was rather enjoyable to rediscover all the things I did have and to rearrange everything. My home and all the things in it feel like new.
Parallel parking once you get the hang of it.
That's an interesting case. For people with a basic spatial sense, it's easy to learn the basic moves, visualizing the space, maneuvering, but I'm noticing people are hitting the roads every year with absolutely no spatial sense. As an example, just last week someone was pulling into a perpendicular parking space in a parking garage with concrete pillars. They totally misread all the distances, angles, and even worse, when their SUV's door started scraping against the pillar, they somehow thought they'd solve it by powering ahead. It could have been a cheap scrape to buff out. Instead, they mangled their rear wheel well and rear suspension. Thousands of dollars in damage, all in the blink of an eye.
I learned how to drive 7 months ago at the age of 26. Now, while I've gotten the hang of normal driving in my automatic car and very recently parallel parking, I have nightmares from that one time I've done a similar thing in perpendicular parking. More like during unparking. Could have stopped, gone ahead and reversed a second time with just a scratch. Instead, the left front got banged up pretty bad.
Not sexually assaulting women and girls.
As an introverted guy who also happens to live in one of the safest places on the planet, I'm continually flabbergasted and disgusted by what women apparently have to go through even in very civilized parts of the world. Yesterday's story about that ambulance driver who tried to molest a patient and ended up killing her husband by throwing him out of the vehicle reads like ridiculously unbelievable Pulp Fiction to me.
Learning to drive a manual car.
Am I the only one who actually struggled to learn manual? I think it took me like a week and I cried my eyes out day one, but to be fair, I was a teenager.
No, I also struggled. But I think that was partially due to the way my dad taught me. I was fine with my mom, but he wanted to be the one to teach me, and it usually ended in both of us yelling and me in tears. I love driving manual now though, so it was worth it, I guess.
Rev matching is a huge part of why I love driving a standard as my DD, it's so satisfying. It took a lot of practice, and it was like a year of learning stick before I felt confident enough to rev match down to second for a 90-degree turn while in traffic. Now that I can do it consistently, it makes every trip, no matter how short, a fun and satisfying experience. I use the brakes so much less, and controlling your speed downhill is smooth and easy. Maybe I shouldn't be doing it as often as I do if it puts excess wear on the throwout bearing and clutch, but it's worth it to me.
Cooking meals.
The hard part is cooking meals that actually taste good, are healthy, are affordable, and aren't the same things you've been eating all week.
Growing up. That's because up is completely wrong. Growing up is an ethereal, subjective standard anyhow, just be honest with yourself. Take care of yourself. Where you falter, take responsibility, but also allow yourself grace. Your life is your own. Move at your own pace. There's no standard to judge you by but your own.
Being a 10 out of 10 friend is really not hard. Ask people questions about their life/interests. Listen to the answers and try to remember upcoming events/milestones. Check in or celebrate when those milestones pass, Ex-friend mentions they're getting blood work done or having an interview next week. Text or call them a day or after lab visit and ask if they got their results, or wish them luck before their interview. This very simple strategy of remembering things about friends day to day has won me so many friendships. People like feeling special enough to be remembered.
Thank you all for watching. If you are interested, subscribe and watch other videos.